Brock Kelly, first guest. How you feeling?
Dude, feeling great. Happy to be here. Happy to dive into whatever we dive into today. And yeah, I mean, this place is pretty cool. We're in a garage right now.
Yeah, I mean, all the vibes. But it's also crazy that we grew up literally, quote unquote, down the road from each other, and we never really connected, which is
Yeah.
just so interesting. And then me moving across the country and now back connecting this way. Kind of crazy how that happens.
Yeah, so strange. So we're just going to dive right into it. This track season for you has been different. Racing faster, racing smarter. What changed?
So I had a lot of misconceptions, I think, about training and about running and about what I thought was going to work for me. And what I mean by that is there have been phases throughout my life where I have tried to rely heavily on building up high mileage and running more. And if I could run more, then I would run faster. It was like more is always going to be better. And that was the misconception I kind of had in my mind. And that led me to injury. And that led me to getting hurt 2 summers ago, which put me in a stress fracture. And I was out for a long time and wasn't able to build back up to full strength for a long time. And then this season specifically, even if I look back at cross-country season, which was back in the fall, literally 8 months ago, I was still kind of in this mindset of, I have to do more to be better. I have to run higher. I have to do as many miles as I can while still keeping the intensity up. And my body felt like it was about to break at all times. And so you can't build confidence like that. You can't be smart in what you're doing whenever you're doing that. And it was like every time I'd step on the race, every time I'd step on the starting line to race, I would be timid and I would feel like I had no confidence going into the race. And then the season didn't go how I wanted it to. And I was like, well, this is where I'm at right now. And then in the winter, I was like, well, the winter has historically always been my best training arc. I've always been able to train the best that I possibly can in the winter. I've always been able to push myself whenever I'm just have that alone time. I'm able to sit there and just run a ton and try to just build up as much strength as I can and push myself on with more. But I decided to focus more on quality over quantity, which helped me a lot. And that was something that I really focused in on like my freshman and sophomore year. And then I thought there was a gap that needed to be filled where I needed to run more mileage in order to get better. And maybe that played a certain role now that I kind of know what my limitations are and know where that barrier is. But I had to go back to the quality over quantity on everything. And at this point in this track season, I have just been like, let me hammer in on quality. Let me just focus on being the best that I can whenever I show up to the track to race. Or show up to the track to run or to race or whatever I'm doing. Let me just focus in on really giving it my all and then resting as hard as I possibly can pretty much, and then showing back up a couple of days later and then hitting it really hard again and just going through this cycle over and over again, which scientifically, if you apply a stressor and then you rest, then that's what's going to lead to like advancements in running. Like that's how you're going to get faster. But a lot of people don't prioritize the rest. And so I was like, what if I just over prioritize the rest almost? I just like took it super easy. And that has helped me so much this season. And having higher quality workouts has been one of the greatest things that I've done this season. It's allowed me to enjoy the sport more, and it's allowed me to actually get to what I feel like my potential actually is, which has been amazing just to attempt. And I don't have that big stress over my head of like, I have to run all these miles in order to get better. And like everybody else is running high mileage. Like, why am I not? Like all this stuff. I was just like, let me just believe in this. Let me believe wholeheartedly that what I'm doing is the right thing. And let me focus in on quality. And if I can focus in on quality, that is going to lead me to success.
So for context, like your social media growth arguably came from quantity, and there was definitely quality in it. But how has that affected your training? Do you think that translated to you applying the same like quantity is going to be the thing for training? And how are you relearning that now?
Yeah, I think a lot of the social media growth with the Daily Mile and everything, that definitely had a quantity aspect to it. But there was always an underlying quality to every single video. Like there was never a Daily Mile video I put out where I was like, this doesn't have at least some level of quality to it that I'm proud of. There were some that I was like, I could be more proud of this, but there was always like a base level of quality I was trying to get to, which meant that every video had quality, which it was just unsustainable with that. And I think one of the biggest things is sustainability in running and creativity in whatever you're trying to do. And if you're doing something that's unsustainable, even though it's working right now, even though it's getting you closer to your goal right now, it's like, if it is unsustainable, then how are you ever going to get to where you're trying to go? How are you ever going to achieve the results you're trying to go after in running and creativity and whatever? And so I had to like take a step back and be like, okay, maybe if I can just focus in on quality, then that's going to lead to better results. And everything that I've been doing recently in training, in creativity, in business has just been like, okay, how can we dial in on how can we dial in on quality? How can we dial in on producing the best thing that we possibly can every time we show up, and making sure that we get the details right, and making sure that we can provide value to an audience, and making sure that we can just do everything correct in the time being. And it's just been it's been a little bit of a shift. And I would say that social media is definitely the way that I built up my social media has definitely had an impact on the way that I've trained, but it's also, I don't know, it's just applying the same principle to every aspect. There has been kind of an even playing field that I've created with quality over quantity and everything that I've done so far.
I'm interested because obviously now social media is your job and you posting videos is your job, and that takes a huge priority in your life, but also you're still a college athlete and that still takes a huge priority as well. How do you find the balance between doing the two? Like, do you ever catch yourself where you're like sacrificing your workout to get a shot, or, you know, sacrificing the quality of your videos in order because you have to get this certain amount of training done? Is there like a push and pull there?
Yeah, I would say quality is always, I mean, I would say that what I'm doing with the thing that always comes first is like college athlete.
Yeah.
That's like what I've committed to the team. Like I'm in my 5th year of running right now. I'm a student. Like I have to do well in school. I have to do well on the team. I have to do well. Like I'm getting scholarship to run for the team. There are these things that I'm like, okay, I need to show up and I need to do well for the team. Social media is secondary.
Yeah.
And that's going to change whenever I'm done with school, whenever I start doing kind of my own thing, which I think is going to resonate with a larger audience, because there's way fewer people that run collegiately or for a team than there are people who don't run for a team, people that run by themselves. And so whenever I can kind of make that shift of like, okay, now I'm kind of running by myself, I'm doing my own thing, and that's going to be a big shift. But yeah, I just think that, I don't know, it's all been, I'm sorry, what was the question? What did we start
it was
with?
just like, how do you, no, you're fine.
Yeah.
Like, how do you find the balance between prioritizing both? Because you could argue that both of those things, both making your videos and running your business and all that stuff, and also training because you're a part of a team, part of a college. Like, how do you find the time and the ability to prioritize both equally?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, like I said, it's what ends up coming first is like student athlete, and then creativity is the kind of the secondary, which kind of sucks right now. But at the same time, it's kind of like, wow, this is what's allowing me to continue to make these videos. So student athlete comes first.
So you're still like prioritizing your team.
Still prioritizing team, still prioritizing everything there. So if I need to, like, there's never going to be a point. I think there probably have been points where I've prioritized creativity more than the team.
Sure.
Or whatever the creative pursuits I'm doing more than the team. But right now it's like, I only get to have this team with me for another.
Because you're getting pretty close to the end.
I'm getting close to the end. I have 3 weeks of running left. And so if I have 3 weeks of running left, I'm like, well, I need to prioritize this.
Yeah, this is
because this is the last time I'm ever going to have this. This is the last time I'm ever going to have this experience. And because of that, I'm like, well, this is what I need to prioritize right now. And we're still super early, I think, with creativity, with everything I'm going to do with social media, all the business stuff. I think we're still way early on that. And we just got a little bit of a head start, which is nice. And now I'm like, okay, whenever I'm done running, the priorities are going to shift. Things are going to shift around, and I'm going to be able to focus in more on like social media and focus in more on building the business and focus in more on trying to grow in that aspect, which is going to be fun. It's just a whole new avenue.
Does that make you sad that, your 5th year, like it's coming to an end? Because I remember when I wrapped up my last year of collegiate sport, I was a lot more sad than what I thought I would be. Like it affected me a lot more leaving because, my sport in tennis was a huge part of my life, right? And then it all just kind of comes to an end and you kind of miss the whole, it was very poignant with that college basketball player. I don't know if y'all saw during March Madness. It was the dude who was like bawling his eyes out like on the stand because he was like, I'm just going to miss dinners with the bros, like missing out dinner with team. Like, how sad are you about that? Or do you have so much on the other side now that you're not really worried about it?
I don't feel like I'm super worried about it. Running has definitely been a huge part of my life. I mean, I've been doing competitive running since 7th grade.
Yeah.
And maybe I've just done it long enough to where I'm like, okay, I think I'm done with this phase.
Yeah.
And it's like I still want to finish well. And I still want to show up and I still want to be the best that I can. And part of that is prioritizing quality, like we were talking about earlier. Part of it is showing up and just being like, okay, we're just going to be the best that we can today for our team. We're going to show them what it looks like to work hard, show all the teammates, all these freshman runners that are coming up that have no clue what it looks like to run hard. I'm going to set that example for them. But then the other half is like, yeah, I do have stuff on the other side. I have a place where I'm trying to go beyond just the college running scene, which is exciting. And I think I've been in the competitive running scene for long enough on the collegiate and high school level that as I begin to shift more toward like personal marathon stuff, that's going to kind of pull back into something that's secondary, but also just something that I do and something that I'm just going to prioritize probably business and YouTube and Instagram and everything there a little bit more, which is going to be a fun experience. Yeah.
I think it's pretty clear to see if you look at your metrics across the last few years, it's definitely been a game of seasons where you've been able to prioritize social media and get stuff out of it. So that first summer that you had in Boulder, where you were able to make quality videos consistently on YouTube and the videos were crushing. And then you translate that into the Daily Mile, where you were injured. So you were training probably a little bit less than you would have been if you were running. And at that point, you're able to make these daily vlogs and crush. So now it's like you're in the season where your collegiate running is ending and you have to prioritize that as much as you can. But does that give you all the confidence in the world moving forward when you don't have this like set season where you have to focus in on racing nearly every week, that you're going to be able to just prioritize social media that much more?
Yeah, I would say so, because like you said, the biggest times that I've had on social media have been the summer in Boulder, or even last summer in Boulder was like I was doing some good numbers there. Mm-hmm. And the Daily Mile, like that was, like you said, I was training less. I wasn't running. Well, I was running some towards the end, but most of it was like 30 minutes of cross training a day, or going to the pool to swim a mile, which is like, it takes 30 to 40 minutes. It's sometimes less. It wasn't the most time consuming thing. So it was like, okay, if I can just devote an hour to this every day. And then I had like classes and stuff, but most of the time it was just kind of like, okay, well, now I got to edit a video. I got to make this and I have to create this, and I had enough time to make that. And I felt like I had enough creativity to make that. It was like everything was just kind of there because I had this hiatus after, because it was like summer in Boulder, built up, really good traction, and then injured. And then it's like, okay, what do I do now? How do I make video? Like where am I going from here? And ultimately like ended up doing the Daily Mile, but in that downswing where I wasn't making the videos on YouTube, I wasn't making anything on Instagram, I was just kind of silent. It's like, okay, I need a creative outlet. And that's when I started the Daily Mile. And it wasn't initially even called the Daily Mile. It was just a daily vlog series I started. I was like, I'll do this for 7 days or 2 weeks or a month. And then I just kind of kept going. And I was like, I'll make it to 100 days. That day, like 45, that's whenever it's actually got traction. And then that continued. I'm supposed to post a video every day for the next 55 days. And then kind of a little bit like once a week after that. And it still continued to get traction and stuff. And it was crazy watching the growth and everything. Just shows that like consistency in those metrics and like in the quantity can sometimes create a more loyal fan base, and quantity can be a good thing. And it does have its seasons, but
because they'll trust that you'll show up the next day.
Exactly. And there was that time when I was showing up every day, and they were like, oh, like this is just something in my life. And it's been cool to like hear people at track meets that have come up to me and they've been like, oh, I was injured during that season. And those videos really helped me. Dang. Those videos helped me get through it. And I get that like all the time. People walking up at track, they're like, oh wait, you're that guy that makes the daily mile. Look, wait. Like, and we'll have these conversations be like, oh man, I had a sacral stress fracture right there. And my back was broken and I was just trying to, and you're like, dang, okay. And there's been some crazy things I've heard from people and I'm like, dude, you were out for how long? They were like, oh, I was out for 6 months. And I was like, all right, like that's insane, man. Like I'm glad the videos helped you during that time. And it's just cool to see like the real world connections that I've made with people and to see kind of what their perspective is on the videos and how they were able to actually benefit from the stuff. So then it kind of gives me continued motivation in everything that I'm doing. But yeah.
So how do you then, I know you kind of just brought up there the marathon. Mm-hmm. So is that what's next for you in terms of identity online? Because you've built your identity around being a collegiate runner.
Yeah.
Is that stressful to have to shift?
I don't think it's that stressful because I've built my identity around being a collegiate runner, but at the same time, I'm also like, I don't think people just follow me because I'm a collegiate runner. I think being a collegiate runner gives me a level of, I don't want to say notoriety, but it gives me a level of authority. Of like, oh wait, this guy runs in college. He has a level of authority. He knows what he's talking about. And I don't think people followed me just because I was a collegiate runner. I think they followed me because I was providing valuable information to anyone who was a runner. And making that shift into the marathon, I don't feel like it's going to be that challenging I don't think it's going to be that hard because like I said, so many of the people who are running right now don't have a team. They don't have someone they can go to. They don't have a place. They're waking up every morning by themselves and they're going out the door and they're going to run and they need motivation for that. They need motivation to stay consistent, to train for their marathon. And that's the type of content they want. They want to see somebody who is kind of in the same boat that they are going out and running. They don't want to see me going out and running with 40 other people at 6 a.m. because it's not as relatable. There's a relatability gap. And because of that, like, as I shift more toward marathon, kind of doing my own thing, it's going to reach more people, I think, which isn't, I might lose the authority of being a collegiate runner, but the people that have been following for long enough know that I was a collegiate runner. And the people that are new, they're watching the videos, they'll find out. They'll be like, who is this guy? And they'll go and they'll research it. Or maybe I'll talk about it in the video, like, oh, I used to run in college, like this, make these callbacks. But at the same time, it's like, I don't think it's going to be that hard of a shift just because it does feel that. It's more, I'll be more relatable. Yeah. And that relatability is what people are wanting. And that's the type of videos that they're wanting to watch.
Yeah, that's something I've been curious about because that's something you're cognizant of is the fact that you've built this brand over the last few years, but it was fairly centered around the fact that you were a collegiate athlete. And so you were thinking about, okay, I have to be able to kind of cater the content and kind of approach things from, I have to be able to be, I hate to say relevant because that sounds harsh, but on the other side of that, you have to be kind of relevant and still relatable to people in a way.
Mm-hmm. And I think at the core of everything I was trying to do whenever I was making those videos every single day for the Daily Mile was, how can I provide quality? How can I get people to follow me just for, not for like what I'm putting out, but for who I am.
Yeah.
And it was like I was providing value to people, but I was also providing it in a way where they felt like they were like having a conversation with me. It felt like they were like hanging out and they would watch the videos every day. And it was like they were developing these relationships. They were following me for who I was, not necessarily the content I was providing, even though it was almost like a trap. Like you provide the content and they watch it and they're like, oh, this is really cool. And they're like, wait, I kind of like this guy. And then they follow me that way. It was the same thing that like Casey Neistat did whenever he was posting a vlog every day for 865 days or however long he went. It was this, oh, this is kind of weird. Oh, wait, this is kind of fun. And it was that shift to like, you watch one video of Casey Neistat and you're like, I don't know what he's doing. And then you watch 3 and you're like, okay, I kind of like this. And then you watch for a week and you're like, dude, what's Casey going to do next? And you're like super excited about it. And you continue to watch these videos. And it was kind of like that same thing with the Daily Mile. And I think people were following me for who I was, not necessarily what I was putting out. And I think people were following Casey for who he was because of the way that he was sharing his content, not necessarily what he was putting out. And what he was putting out complemented who he was, which ultimately created this relationship, made him one of the most successful YouTubers of all time. And that's kind of the direction that I see myself going. And that's where I think that we've been and we have the capacity to go in the future.
So I feel like right now it's safe to say that you're putting most of your energy into YouTube.
Yeah, I mean, right now it's most of the energy is going to the team.
Okay.
Like if I'm honest with you here, most of the energy is going to the team. A lot of it's going into school. I have like a 40-page paper due, like in a week or two. It's 40-page single spaced, so
Oh,
not even
jeez.
like double spaced.
Oh, that makes my skin crawl just thinking about it. I have so much school PTSD. I hated school.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of it either, but I have to finish this up, and it's gonna be intense. It's like a group project, but even then we have to each write like 7 or 8 pages, and then we have to make sure it's cohesive, which is just gonna take just as long as writing a 40-page paper by myself. So I'm like, all right, this is gonna be insane. Yeah, so got to figure that out. But right now, like that's where most of my energy is going. And YouTube is definitely. I would love to be able to post more on YouTube because I feel like you can connect more with people because you're connecting over a longer form video and they're watching it and they're getting more value out of whenever they sit down for 15, 20 minutes as opposed to sitting down for 60 seconds to watch an Instagram reel. It's like if I'm posting every day on Instagram, then maybe you can have that same level of relatability. And I've noticed that brands are like crazy about Instagram.
Yeah.
Like brand deals on Instagram are insane. And I've brought in like a lot of big companies have reached out to me and they've been like, hey, we want to work with you here. And I'm like, what? Like you, this stuff like I did a campaign with Adidas and Dick's Sporting Goods, done one with New Balance, just signed a new contract with New Balance again. And so it's like these big companies reaching out on Instagram. Instagram's just one of these places where they pay a lot of money because Instagram, I think from a metric standpoint, has higher levels of conversions than YouTube historically has, but maybe it's because the ad model is broken on YouTube.
Sure.
Like the paid ad model where they're like paying YouTubers to, in the middle of their video, cut to something where they're like, and now I'm going to promote SeatGeek. And you're like, I don't care.
Yeah, like the model hasn't changed a lot over the years.
And it maybe that's what the issue is. It hasn't been as smooth and integrated. And maybe it's like they need to take pointers from Instagram of like, okay, how can we integrate? How can we make like a real ad that connects with the audience that feels like it's a part of your video, but shouts out a product? And that's going to be an interesting thing to see. I think if I were to just start making more YouTube videos, I would have to somehow reach out to brands and convince them that I can make something that would be just as valuable as what they would pay me to do on Instagram. But yeah, no, it's just all over the place. And like, yeah, I would say I'm prioritizing YouTube a lot right now, but I'm not really, there's not really prioritization towards one or the other. It's just kind of like
Trying to do a little bit
just
of
trying to
everything.
do a little bit of everything. There's no real structure to what I'm doing right now. Like I said, most of the time's going towards the team. Most of the time is like, I have 3 weeks with this team. I have a month with this team, 6 weeks with the team. It's just been like cutting down. And so now I'm like, oh, I literally have 20 days with my team. And then I'm a team I've been with for 5 years. And it's like, okay, I just got to cherish this time. It's like, even if I wake up in the morning and I don't want to go run, I'm like, I'm going to cherish this time.
Yeah.
And I'm going to try to make videos, the meets, and try to document those moments and try to make valuable content for the people that are watching my videos. But main thing I'm prioritizing is team. So
Yeah. Going back to the brand deals for a second.
Yeah.
Was that hard to navigate at the beginning? Because I assume you didn't really have anyone telling you how to handle things and how to do things. Like just out of nowhere, you're getting New Balance in your inbox. Like how did you navigate all of that?
Yeah. So I had the 10-man elite. I had the 10-man elite connection with so I texted Sam Parsons and I was like, yo, Adidas and Dick's Sporting Goods reached out. Like, what do I do? And he like gave me some pointers. He was like, you should ask for a lot of money.
Interesting.
Because I was like, how much? I was like, this is like the first one I've really seen. It's like big. It's like a big company. And I was thinking like, it's like a few $100, maybe like $1,000. Like, oh, that's big. That's huge.
Yeah.
And he was like, you should ask for like 10 times that. I was like, what? And so he was like, yeah, like just ask for like, he was like, yeah, just ask for like more money. And I was like, all right. So I just like asked for more and I submitted the offer and they were like, asked for more for, I think I said I would do like one video at this rate. And they were like, well, and it was a pretty high rate. And they were like, well, if you do 2 for us, we'll give you even more than that. It's like, oh,
Wow.
all right. So then I signed a contract with them and I was like, yeah, all right, let's do this. And so I made 2 videos for Adidas and Dick's Sporting Goods. It was like the Supernova Rise. and it was available at Dick's Sporting Goods. They just wanted me to talk about it, and I did one video with my friend Mason, who was trying to train
I remember that video.
He was trying to train for a 50 miler. Dude, freaking beast. He used to be a football player. He's been running like a madman. He's set to do he's trying to do a 100-mile race, I think, this year.
Dang.
He's insane. And he's just gotten better and better and better at it. And shout out Mason. He's a dog. But yeah, I made that video, and then there was another one I made just running through the streets in Bellhaven, which is like right next to Jackson, or kind of like right in the heart of Jackson almost. But just running through the streets and had my friend Nate come out and film and stuff, and he got some good shots, and it was a good time.
Yeah, I'm also curious. Me and Cyrus were talking about this the other day. Me and Cyrus have financial conversations all the time, and I was talking about how, at least in my experience growing up in Mississippi, not a ton of people here talk about money, like, at all. Like, money's just like not something you talk about down here. Did you think that also kind of affected you in a way? Because, you know, you're hearing like, oh, you should ask 10 times what you originally thought or whatever. Did that kind of play into that at all?
Yeah, that was because you don't really know what you're worth until you ask.
Yeah.
Which is a kind of a tough thing, because you're like, I don't know what, because I did a lot of freelance photography in high school.
Yeah.
I would just take photos. I would do like people's senior pictures and stuff like that. That's kind of how I got my start in photography for the most part. I mean, I did some photography whenever I was in 7th and 8th grade, and then kind of had a hiatus from it. And then I got like a really nice, like 50 millimeter 1.4 like Nikon lens.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I can do like portraits and stuff. Like, this is sick. And so I started taking photos of people for like portrait photography, and I had no clue what to ask. Usually I'd ask on the lower end, because it was just like people that didn't necessarily have a ton of cash. It was like my friends, and they were like, can you do my photo? Like, can you do my senior photos? And I was like, yeah, I'll do them for $50. And then it was like, and then if like their parents asked me, I'd be like, oh, I'll do it for $100. And it felt like it was like, I was like robbing them.
I remember those days.
Yeah,
vividly.
it feels like you're like robbing them. You're like, I'm not qualified for this. I don't even know what I'm doing. But then you get better at it, and people start to notice, and people start to pay more. And you're like, okay, well, even at that point, you still don't really know what you're worth until you just ask. And then you can find yourself in a different bracket of like, oh, now I can ask, instead of 100, I can ask for 2,500.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, whoa. Okay, now people are paying for taste. They're paying for the creativity. They're paying for the eye that I have. And that's just putting a number on creativity, putting a metric behind creativity is very challenging. But like I said, whenever I talked to Sam, I knew that he had dealt with professional contracts. He kind of knew what it was like. He knew how much these brands were willing to offer. He knew how much they were offering creators. And with that, I was like, what is this worth? And I knew he would be the guy to go to. There was nobody else. I don't think I could have contacted anybody else and asked them. Yeah. I may have even contacted Eric. Yeah. And I had sent him a text, and I was like, what do I do for this? And he said, well, I don't know. Maybe like, I think he may have said like, oh, maybe like $1,000. I don't know. And then Sam said like, oh, just do like 10 times that much. It's like, okay. And so I submitted, I don't remember what I submitted. It was a good offer. And I was like, yeah, like there's a lot of, I didn't know there was that much money in this. I didn't know there's that much money in social media. And I didn't know that there was the capacity to do this full time just off of Instagram stuff. And soon find out, yeah, well, you can. And you find out what these deals are, and you find out that you can ask for more, and you find out what your worth is. And you only find out if you ask. And the worst thing that's going to happen, that was one of the things that Sam told me. He said the worst thing that's going to happen is you're going to ask for a lot of money, and they're going to say, no, how about this? Or they're going to say, no, how about we give you more for which is what they ended up. They said, no, how about we give you more and you do like another video for us? And Sam said, you can even like throw in extra stuff. You can be like, oh, I'll shout you out on Strava too. I'll post this on Strava, or like these small things. Yeah. Or like, oh, I'll post the shoes on Strava if you pay me an extra $3K. And they're like, okay, deal. You just pitch it as like, oh, my Strava followers are the most loyal people. They like follow me. They comment on my runs. I'm getting kudos all the time. Like, this is a fan base that you haven't even tapped. These are the most loyal people right here. These are the people who are actually out they're in the freaking mud. They're running themselves. They're big followers, big fans. You can pitch to them like that. Be like, these are the people who you really want to reach. This is the core audience. And you can package it up in a way where it's like, okay, let's pitch this brand and let's tell them like, yeah, like throw in like an extra $3K and I'll put it on Strava. And they're like, oh yeah, like let's do that. And you can just it's just like extra ways to make a little bit extra cash, to squeeze a little bit more out of the deal. But the worst thing they're going to say is no. And whenever they say no, they're going to come back with a counter offer. Yeah. They're not going to say, no, we don't want to work with you. They're going to say no. And they might say, no, we don't want to work with you. And then you're like, okay, whatever. But then most likely they're going to be like, no, here's a counter offer.
Yeah. It's interesting. I think we forget, because I have a bit of background in more of the like traditional commercial production world. And, that world is kind of dying right now, especially with social media and all that stuff. And it's interesting that you kind of forget that these companies used to spend exorbitant amounts of money on one singular production. I've directed commercials that were 5-figure, 6-figure budgets, and they're huge projects for one piece of content versus now, they're kind of splitting everything amongst the creators and stuff. And so, you hear a number, in the 4 to 5 figure range and you think, oh, that's like so much money for like what I'm doing. But then you kind of forget that these companies are used to spending exorbitant amounts of money for, again, one singular piece of content that were 10 times what we're asking for now. Mm-hmm. It's interesting that, just people forget that that's a thing, just how much money these companies have.
Yeah. And you think about, that was one of the things. I looked at the revenue of Dick's Sporting Goods and they have it's like 100 billion.
Yeah.
I was like, well, I was like, this money, this amount of cash is not going to impact them. And I'm also doing another deal right now with like a big bank. I don't know if I can say who the bank is, but it's like a big bank for like a credit card.
Sure.
And they just sent me an offer and I was like, yeah, sure. And so with that, I was like, I didn't know it could go up that high. But then you look at you're like, this is one of the largest banks in the US. Like they have a lot of money.
Yeah.
And they can pay for this. And like you said, they would pay like $1 million for a commercial or something that would go on traditional television, or they can pay, they can split it between certain influencers and be like, oh, well, we can take that same budget and we can reach more people and actually connect with a deeper audience, which is going to be way more valuable than anything we're going to put out on TV.
It's crazy they spent so much money for such a limited audience, truthfully. If you look at the numbers of what traditional television does.
Such a shallow audience.
It's just a shallow audience comparatively to what, the internet does.
Yeah.
So you step into this world of making social media money. Did that affect your mindset towards staying in school? Were you ever worried about like, oh, maybe I should just leave and put my time into this?
I mean, freshman year I was. Freshman year when I had no money and I wasn't making any brand deals, I was like, I should just do social media full time. And I think sophomore year I was kind of doing the same thing. I was like, I could do social media full time. I could do this full time. I could just I could just leave. I could just not do this ever again. And that was like my thought of, I'm never gonna use this degree that I'm trying to get right now. And I think at that point I was taking a bunch of classes that I could just hire people to do. I was taking like accounting courses. I was like, I'm not gonna need to know the details of like the super in-depth details of accounting. As I'm gonna hire an accountant and I'm gonna have them handle it. And I'm gonna make sure they're competent and I'm gonna make sure they know what they're doing. But also like, I don't need to know these little details. And I was having to like just toil over these details in a lot of the classes I was taking. And I was like, I'm more of a big picture guy. I've always been more of a big picture guy. Let me zoom out and like look for the bigger vision here. Let me think like a CEO, like someone who's like trying to create something that's much larger than just like becoming an accountant or like stepping into a corporate job. Like, how can I think a little bit larger? And after like, maybe that was like freshman and sophomore year, I was thinking these things. And then by the time I made it my junior year, I was like, I'm already this far. Like, I'm running well. Like everything's going okay. Like, let's just keep making videos. And I was able to continue making videos and continue making traction, which is why earlier I said, like, I'm still early to this thing. I'm early to this whole creative thing. I've almost got a head start is how I would like to look at it. We've just started making content and we've started building a business and we've started doing these things that most people wait until they're out of school to do. And I'm like, okay, we already have a big head start on everything. So now whenever I step out after I'm done with school, after I'm done with running, after I'm done like competitive running, I'm still going to continue running. But after I'm done with collegiate running and these things that are kind of this structure that I have, after I'm done with that, it's like I get to step into a more creative space, into a more free flowing type space where I can kind of create my own things, which is going to be really exciting. And I can allocate time toward the things that I really want to allocate time towards. But yeah, there were definitely times where I was like, oh, I don't need this anymore. But those thoughts didn't happen whenever I was getting like the social media deals, because most of the deals that I started getting were maybe beginning of 2024. At that point, like I was graduating in May of 2024. So it was like, I've been here 3.5 years. I'm not leaving now. And Yeah, there was nothing in my mind that was like, oh, we should like leave now. If I was getting those freshman year, I would probably dropped out and been like, Mom, Dad, this is what I'm doing.
Sorry.
I'm leaving school. It's just I'm doing a different path. And they would have been like, my parents are very supportive of everything I do. They would have been like, all right, cool.
Really?
Yeah.
They have been any sort of like friction towards what you do?
No. They're really proud of me,
Wow.
which is kind of cool.
It's
Yeah.
I'm only shocked just because that's usually not what you hear.
Yeah.
Usually parents are still so hardwired towards get a degree, do the safe thing, etc.
I think my parents, they always say, they're like, we know you'll figure it out. And I don't know, I think I've always just kind of been like that of like, oh, I'll figure it out. And it's like, even if because ultimately I'm at a position right now, I have a like bachelor's degree.
Yeah.
So I can go work a corporate job tomorrow. I can go apply for a corporate job and probably be working at a corporate office in June and making, I don't know, 5-6 figures a year, just enough to have some stability, continue to move up in a company, make a few $100,000 a year in the next 15, 20 years. Like I could take that route right now because I have a degree, and that's cool. But I think it's more fun to not do that.
Yeah.
It's more fun to not like sell your creativity and sell your soul to one of these big corporate giants and to just kind of do your own thing. And so that was kind of like my thought there. And I kind of just said, yeah, I'm going to do something creative. I don't know what it's going to be, but I do have that degree that I can fall back on in case, like if the business fails, if all of social media fails, if everything goes to crap tomorrow and I'm bringing in 10 views of video and I have no more brand deals and all this stuff just goes out the window and I can't support myself. I'm getting married in October. If I can't support my fiance, future wife, like the family we're planning on starting in the next, I don't know, 5 years, 10 years, like whatever it is, like that, if I can't support them, then that's an issue. But right now I'm kind of in this phase of like, well, let's take a risk. Let's take a chance. Let's step off this cliff and just see what happens. And if I fail miserably, I'll have a master's degree at the end of that. Like, and I'll have my master's in June.
In what?
Business administration, just an MBA.
Sure.
So I'll have a MBA in June, which means I could probably step into a management position, which means I could be making 6 figures immediately out of college, which is like, that's enough to support a family.
So that brings you a lot of like kind of safety in a way.
Oh yeah. I just have a safety net now.
Yeah.
I don't want to use it.
Sure.
But I have it. And I think that was also one of the things that I think Casey Neistat talks about a lot about that. He was like, it's kind of whenever you have nothing, it's kind of better than if you have something. So like me having a degree is like having something, and not having a degree would be having nothing, which what kept him motivated through everything he was doing was he didn't have a degree and he was working, he was shucking oysters in the back of this random shop like in New York or wherever he was. He was like, this is miserable. I hate this. I never want to do this. And so then he started like just grinding and started making these videos and started doing all these things that allowed him to continue building an audience on YouTube and making money that way. And so it's kind of like he had nothing, but that helped him motivate. And so I almost have to treat it as if I don't have a degree. Like I have a degree, but that's like way in the back of my mind. I need to treat it as if I don't. So
I'm glad you brought up big picture earlier, because something that we've talked about a lot recently, and this kind of ties into what you were saying about, you know, kind of being more on like the burn the boat side of things, of just like all or nothing versus kind of having a safety net. But I'm someone who I'm both a big picture person, and I'm also someone who's so hardwired to get to the destination as quickly as possible. Like I'm not someone who can enjoy the journey very much. I'm someone who I have to get from here to here as quickly as possible. How do you find that balance between like, okay, I have this bigger picture of what all this is going to be, but how do you still enjoy the day to day?
It's got to slow down sometimes. It's not a race. Like there's no reason to rush it. And sometimes you find yourself rushing it, and sometimes you find yourself, oh, I have to get there. And whenever I get there, you're going from one checkpoint to the next, to the next, to the next. And it's like, you're always striving and striving and striving and striving. You never take a step back. If you never take a step back, then you're never going to get to where you want to go. Like nothing is ever going to satisfy this great. It's just always just striving, striving, striving. You're never going to be happy with where you are, which if you're never happy with where you are, then that's a sad life. And so I think at some point you have to hit these checkpoints. You're like, okay, these are the goals. This is where I'm trying to go. And so you move toward that goal. But then whenever you get there, it's like, okay, enjoy this. This is good. It's not a race. We've made it. And in the process, like enjoy that process. Just slow down and be like, yeah, like I'm working hard to get toward a goal right now, but I'm enjoying this right now. And I think the more you enjoy it, the more you're going to enjoy the rewards that it's creating. I think back to running, and I think back to like the summer whenever I was in Boulder running 100-mile weeks, which was awesome. I freaking loved that summer. That was a good time. And I would go out every single day and I would just run insane amounts of mileage. Like, I don't know, I think it's like 14 miles a day to run 100 miles a week. It was a lot of miles, like every single day. Long runs were 20 miles long at the end of the week. It was wild. But in that process, I think if I looked at it of like, oh, if I'd started every week of like, oh, dang, I have to get to 100 miles a week. Ooh, this is going to be crazy. Man, I don't know if I can do that. I don't know. Like, this is going to be insane. If I'd started every week just looking towards the destination and then just kind of tried to rush through each individual day, I would have been so burnt out after like 2 or 3 weeks of doing this. And I would have just been like, oh, I can't do this. Like, my body's not fit for this. And ultimately, my body wasn't fit for it, but that was a different story. But instead, my mentality in those moments was like, we're just going to go out, and this is just something that we do. This is who we are. This is like how we're just going to go out, and we're going to run, and we're going to enjoy it. And it might suck. It might be good. It might be fun. It might be and we just kind of we just enjoyed every mile. It goes back to like what Ryan Hall said whenever he said, run the mile you're in. I think Dana Casser, I don't even know what her name is, but she was one of the first people that said it. And it was run the mile you're in. And I think every time I would go out, I would be running 13, 14 mile runs. And it was just kind of like, oh, just run the mile you're in. Just be here. Just be right now, be present, slow down. It doesn't have to be, it's not a race. We're not trying to get to 14 miles. We're not just trying to get to the end of this run. We're just trying to take it one step at a time to where whenever we get to the end of the run, it's like, oh, we could keep going. We could keep running more if we needed to. It's not like this big relief at the end. It's like, this is just a part of the process. Just enjoy the process. And tomorrow we'll come back and we'll do the same thing. And we'll just enjoy the process. And we'll be here right now as present as we possibly can be. It's like every single time we're going to be present. And I think you can apply the same principle to creativity. You can apply the same principle to business of like, just be here, be now, like be in this moment, be present. And the more present you are in this moment, that you're striving for a goal, obviously you're trying to get to 100 miles a week, but it's like, sometimes it's just start moving in that direction and enjoy the process of moving in that direction. And maybe you won't get to the 100-mile a week goal that you were going after. Maybe get to someplace better. Maybe get to someplace different, someplace unexpected but move forward, move toward that goal, not just sitting back and being like, oh, like this is going to be the biggest thing I've ever done. It's going to be the hardest thing I've ever done. And then try to like rush through it to get there. It's like, it's not a race. Just sometimes it's good to slow down.
You have the motto, intentions over everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to get into OE.
Okay.
So talk a little bit about how you started it, but more so recently you talked about how that's going to be a large focus moving forward. I'm very interested to hear how you're going to incorporate that in your future business.
I think it's going to depend on the tariffs.
Is that affecting you?
It probably will. It's some of the stuff I source comes from China. Some of the stuff, and like everything kind of like a lot of textiles go back to China. A lot of stuff goes to other places. So it's some of the stuff I source is from US. So there's a t-shirt company out in Los Angeles called LA Apparel or Los Angeles Apparel, and they make my t-shirts most of the time. So I'll buy them from there, and then I'll get them screen printed here in Jackson. But even then, like the price of ink, the place in Jackson probably gets their ink from China, so the prices for ink are going to go up, and the place in Los Angeles probably gets it's probably not U.S. grown cotton, it's probably grown someplace overseas, so that has to come in. There's gonna be it's gonna impact these little things, and then if I actually do source something bigger from China, like if I source like a big like sweatshirts or custom like running shirts or shorts or half tights or whatever, if I end up sourcing those from China, then it's gonna be a challenge to actually, like it's gonna cost a lot of money. It's gonna be 125% more than it would be previously as of right now. So we got to figure that out. But yeah, intentions over everything. That was the motto that I actually started in Virginia with some of my teammates. Like I said, it wasn't athletics related. It was more so just life related. So what was happening is I was making these videos about running, and they weren't doing very well, and they didn't really feel like authentic to me. It was just kind of like, okay, this is a video about running and I'm doing a workout, and I just didn't really know how to make the videos that connected with an audience. And I thought like the answer, like at that time I was like, I just need to go back to making videos that I just enjoy making. And at that time we were in Virginia, it was just me and like 5 of my friends. And I was like, let's just like make videos, just wandering around Virginia. And whatever we're doing, we were jumping in creeks, we were going to coffee shops, we were still doing runs and workouts and stuff. We were playing putt-putt, just like fun, stupid vlogs. So I started making these vlogs, and at that time, like it was like I needed to have more intentionality about the videos I was making and just go back to making more videos that were more fun. I was like, and as I created that motto, I was like, this is something that could be branded like in the future if I wanted to. It could be like intentions over everything. It could be like some sort of brand. I don't know exactly how I'm going to incorporate it. We'll figure that out further down the line. But in my mind, I was like, this is a cool motto and I want to make something of it. And then that following season, it was kind of rocky for cross country. Cross country has just never been my like thing. I've always tried to be good at it and I've always wished I was good at it, but I've never been really great at it. I'm just like, it's like I always tried so hard. It's like every time I was just like fighting for my life to do everything I could on the cross country course. But I had a little bit of a rocky season. This would be my junior year in college. And I was like, well, like I guess I need to be more intentional about what I'm doing here as an athlete, and kind of started thinking more about that. And then at the end of that season, I got the flu. And whenever I got the flu, like I had to go race the national championship. We like qualify for nationals and stuff. And so I made it to nationals with the team, and I was like our number 5 maybe, or number 6. And I felt terrible. I had the flu maybe 2 or 3 weeks prior, but I still was not over it. It was like a bad flu. I was just in bed for like 4 or 5 days with a fever and stuff. It was terrible. But I had felt terrible, and I tried to race, and I ran like the worst race of my life. I was almost dead last in nationals. And that's just like a moment that sticks with you. It's kind of like embarrassing. You're like, dang, like I worked so hard all summer training. I worked so hard all season trying to get better. And then I make it to this final race and I just completely blow up and I run the worst race of my entire life. You're like, whoa, that something's like not going well. Like, I don't know what this is. And so then at that point, it was like, I need to be more intentional about my habits and about the habits that I'm practicing in athletics and the habits that I'm practicing just in my life, and just freaking do insane stuff. So at that point, I'd wake up at 5 a.m. I'd go to the cold plunge and I'd sit like up to my neck for 5 to 10 minutes. And then I'd go to practice at 5:45. And it was like crazy stuff that like I would never do now. And I don't even know if I recommend anybody do it now, but it was like, I just needed something hard and challenging to do at that time in my life. It's like, well, we're just going to do some crazy stuff and we're going to see if we can get better. And that ended up being honestly one of the best seasons of my entire life at that point. And so then going after that season, that was whenever I was going into that following season was going into my senior year, which is whenever I went out to Boulder and whenever I ran like 100 miles a week. But that was kind of just it morphed from this. The previous summer, it was like this, okay, we need to be more intentional about the videos we're making. We need to enjoy the videos we're making. We need to just have more fun with this. And then it kind of shifted to, okay, let's be more intentional about habits. And then as I started being more intentional about habits, I was like, well, let's start a brand. Let's start a business. Let's see if we can make something here. And that was whenever I created OE Athletics Club, over everything, intentions over everything, a brand that's literally built on the motto of intentions over everything, intentionality in athletics and life and what you're doing, making sure that every action you're taking has a purpose and meaning behind it. And that's whenever I decided, okay, we're going to move into, we're just going to kind of keep trying to grow this brand. We're kind of going to try to make something large and just make it into something that maybe not even anything large, but just try to make this into something, you know? It's like, it's nothing right now. Let's just learn the ins and outs. And if I fail, at least I know how to kind of start a brand, and I know what it's like to register with the Department of Revenue and get all these certificates and certifications and tax IDs and stuff. And I'm like, oh, this is cool. At least I know the ins and outs of like the business world. And for the next business I start, I'll be able to kind of have at least a general understanding. And so far it's been just kind of like, okay, let's just feel our way through this, which has been good for the phase of life that I'm in, where I'm kind of like, oh, I don't really have to, I'm not relying on this to make income, and I don't have to figure this out whenever I'm done. Like I said, I got a head start almost is what it feels like. So I don't have to figure this out whenever I get out of college. I don't have to figure out how to start a business and how to dive into the weeds of all this stuff. I can actually just pour into the creativity and put more intentionality into what we're doing with the business as we continue to move forward. So yeah, that's kind of how it started. And it's just been, so far it's just been like clothing, like t-shirts, hats. I have coffee mugs too, just because it worked with the Daily Mile. And I was like, oh, this is sick. This is just something I want to make. And I've been working hand in hand with my graphic designer, Jack. Dude, he's a beast. He's got some incredible work, and I can pitch him an idea and he's like, okay, we'll bring it to life. And he brings it to life. And I'm like, Jack, how'd you do this? And it's always so sick. And he's just so good at what he does. And we've continued to just make some incredible things. And we're working on some new things right now. But like I said, tariffs are probably going to have an impact on that. So we're going to have to figure out how we're going to do this next round. It might just be like sourcing from Los Angeles apparel, getting stuff from LA and then screen printing it in Jackson, which is not going to be, I wanted it to be more custom. I wanted it to be more thoughtful, more intentional. I wanted it to have more details. I wanted to document the process of bringing a piece of clothing to life, which would be fun on YouTube, and it'd be fun to kind of document those moments as I'm kind of continuing to build, almost like Minted New York does.
Yeah.
That type of stuff, where it's like, okay, we're creating a piece of clothing. This is how we're going to bring it to life. We're also training. We're also doing, this is what my life's like, except it's in Mississippi.
Yeah.
And it's like the most unconventional place to start a business.
Oh,
because
absolutely.
Nobody's like, oh, I need to start a clothing company in Mississippi. And if anybody is, it's like, if somebody in Mississippi says they have a clothing company, it's like, it's going to be the worst clothing company you've ever seen in your entire life.
Absolutely.
Usually.
Yeah.
Might be a few that are all right. But most of the time you look at it, you're like, there's just a lack of taste and just a lack of exposure to culture, I guess. And
I always said that Mississippi was always a good 5 to 7 years behind everyone else.
Yeah. But it's like so cool though at the same time. Like I love it here at the same time because it's like, maybe like 5 to 7 years behind, but also, dude, I'll tell you one of the craziest places I went was we were in Kansas in Pittsburgh, Kansas for meet, for like a track meet. They have an indoor facility, Pittsburgh State, they're D2, big running team. And dude, walking through that town, I was like, this feels like I'm in an early 2000s. Like Mississippi's behind, but like this feels way behind. I don't know what's happened. It felt weird.
Interesting.
And so I don't know, dude. Mississippi's just an interesting place. It's someplace that I like it. It's definitely different, but
I've been sharing the lore with Cyrus.
Yeah.
As we've been driving through. Do you ever see yourself leaving?
Probably at some point. I'll stay here for at least another year.
Okay.
And especially like as I get married and stuff, we'll probably get a house someplace probably in Belhaven. That's what we're looking at. Have you ever been over to Belhaven?
Yeah.
Dude, it's like Los Angeles, but it's in the hood. That's how I would explain it. The houses each of them are so unique.
Yeah.
And there isn't like it wasn't built for a neighborhood. It wasn't built to meet building regulations or anything. Every person bought a lot and they were like, we're going to build a house. And every house is different and every house has a unique style and a unique taste and unique flavor to it, to where there's just this insane like creative community in the Belhaven area, but it's in the middle of Jackson. And so if you go too far outside, you do get into some really sketchy areas where there are high crime rates. But in the heart of Belhaven, it's pretty safe. It's a pretty nice area, and it's completely different, and it's just a hidden gem. Nobody even knows about it. But you drive through Belhaven, you're like, I've seen a house just like that in Los Angeles. I've seen what is this house doing?
There's
here?
lots of like weird hidden pockets like that in Mississippi. There's places similar to that, like outside of Hattiesburg, where you're like, wait, that's here? Yeah,
it's just so cool, and it's like things that people don't know, and people think Mississippi is just kind of like this place where everyone lives in a shack. Everyone lives in this garage.
Yeah, it's
this
interesting.
Is all we have.
It's interesting also because I didn't realize how much Mississippi affected me until I left I left and went to Chicago. And I didn't realize how unique our experience growing up here is compared to the rest of the country, especially when it comes to things like work ethic.
Yeah,
Even though me and you both took pretty untraditional paths compared to everyone else here, I didn't realize that how much of just like that blue collar work hard mentality is just like almost just hardwired. Beaten into you almost. Do you think that's kind of almost giving you a leg up in a way comparatively to the rest of the field?
Usually, but then it's also like whenever you step into a creative space, it's kind of hard to for me, it's kind of been just a challenge to figure out how to allocate my time well, because I'm like, okay, I'm willing to work hard, but how do I like win?
Yeah, because there's a difference between just working hard and working effectively.
Yeah, exactly. And you have to figure out, I'm still in the process of kind of figuring out how to work effectively and still continue to work hard, because I know I can work hard. Like I used to do, like random labor for a contractor in Tupelo, and we would sit and she would just hire me for random stuff. And I would go to like a house and I would clean up job sites, and I would like be hauling lumber out and putting it in these big trash bins and like sweeping out these old houses and cleaning insulation out of places and scrubbing down floor. It was just manual labor. It's hard labor. I enjoyed it, but then it also taught me that I never want to do that ever. But it's also like I enjoyed it at the same time. So I'm like, okay, like if I could figure out how to take that same work ethic and put it into like all the creativity I've done, which is kind of what I did whenever I did the Daily Mile. It was like, oh, every day I'm showing up and I'm making something, I'm putting something out, and I feel confident in that. But for me, I'm in this process of figuring out how I can effectively do that, which is going to be a challenge. I'm trying to figure out this summer. Like you said, I'm kind of shifted towards YouTube potentially, and that's where I'm potentially going this summer. But you remember like when Ryan Trahan did his Penny series?
Yeah.
Like, okay, can we do something like
Like
that?
that. Yeah.
Can we do something that's maybe not exactly like that, but something that fits my brand, fits who I am, and make like a 30-day series like that where we're just going crazy on something.
Yeah.
And it's a model that hasn't been utilized very well, and some people have tried to do it and some people have done it semi-successfully. Ryan did it the most successfully, but I think he had the most planning and he had the most just thought put into everything he was doing. So I think it's literally putting intentionality behind what you're doing and stepping into a position of being able to do something like that. But yeah, no, I'd say like that. But yeah, like the blue collar work ethic that you see in Mississippi, like, I mean, just talking to your dad, I'm just like, this is a blue collar man.
Oh yeah, that's a blue collar man.
I was like, this is a blue collar man. This man has been working hard. What he's talking about, he's working on an oil refinery or something back whenever he was 23.
Yeah, he showed up to the paper mill the day after he graduated high school, and he's been working there ever since. I know it's also interesting that you bring up the Penny series in particular, because something I also didn't really think about until after I left here and went to Chicago was when it comes to logistics around making things happen and making projects happen, I underestimated how much, I'm struggling to find the right word, but connections that I had here in Mississippi to make things happen. Like how much easier it was to make something happen down here because I knew the people. There's a lot less like red tape around here. We can go kind of do something halfway illegal down the street and no one will touch you. No one blinks twice, versus in Chicago, there's lots of red tape. People tend to be a bit more transactional up there, just like all those things.
I think about you and Jacob doing those film photos and like burning that couch and
stuff.
Yeah,
like that was right here actually. Yeah. That was right down here.
I'm sure it was like but it's like you're doing something. It's like kind of creative. You're like anywhere else, you're not going to be able to get away with that.
Yeah, but you can make those things happen so easily down here.
You just find a freaking couch on the side of the road and you're like, oh, I just light it on fire.
You said that you would potentially be willing to leave in the next year or so. Mm-hmm. Are you worried about, or I guess first of all, where would you want to go? But also, are you worried about a bigger place being almost overwhelming? I feel like Mississippi, in a sense, has kind of given you an unfair advantage. Like you're in a world of your own here. But do you think that there's just a world of opportunity elsewhere? Or are you worried about getting out of this kind of bubble where you're in your own space?
I think it kind of depends. Depends on where you go. And I kind of like the idea of like a New York City, like high pressure.
Really?
Just for like a year or two, just to experience like the grind mentality of like, and the high pressure and like, okay, you have to make it work. But also you don't really have, like you said, a way to stand out. So there's not really, there isn't a way to make your brand more known because there's so many other people that are trying to do the exact same thing that you are. And so you're kind of just blending in with everybody else, which could be me forfeiting part of a competitive advantage that I have of being here. But even then, like, I don't know if I'd move to New York. It's been in talks of like, okay, I might move there for like a year. If I did move there, it'd be for like a year. And then also like looking at other places, like I've thought about moving, me and my fiance, we talked about moving out to like Charleston, South Carolina. That could be a nice place. There's not really a whole lot of, there's some creators there for sure, but not like overwhelming like New York City or anything.
Sure.
And then you also have places like Nashville, which would be nice. I kind of like the South. I just always have.
Same.
Nashville has an appeal, maybe just outside of Nashville, someplace like Franklin or like someplace up there, because it has this appeal of, okay, it has seasons still. Whenever you get further down south, whenever you're like here in South Mississippi,
there's no seasons.
There's no seasons.
Yeah.
It's like you go from blazing hot in the summer and you have like kind of a fall, but the fall kind of happens in the winter. It doesn't happen until like Christmas.
Yeah.
And then the next thing you know, it's like you have like freezing cold weather. Like it's just so weird.
It's such extremes.
Yeah, you have like both extremes. And then it'll get down to like 2 degrees and it's humid and you're like, what is this?
Yeah.
And Mississippi's so weird as far as weather goes.
Yeah,
I mean,
even when we like woke up this morning and it looked like there was about to be a hurricane outside. It was like dark, gray, it was raining. Cyrus walked outside. I was like, don't worry, it'll change in about 15 minutes.
yeah, and it did.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I've been thinking about just like places to go, and maybe it'll be Nashville, maybe it'll be Charleston, maybe it'll be someplace like that. Maybe I'll stay around the Jackson area after I stay around for a year. We just have like good connections in Jackson.
Sure.
Connected with the church, we're connected with everything there, and we're like, okay, this is where we have these connections here, so why not just continue to stay here for a little while longer, especially as we're trying to like navigate first year of marriage and stuff. It doesn't make sense to like just change everything.
Throw a bunch of extra pressure on
just
you.
throwing a ton of extra pressure. So it's kind of we'll see if we can make this work for a little while. But yeah, I've noticed working in Mississippi, it's like very inefficient. Owning a business and operating a business, it's working with the Department of Revenue and stuff, trying to get connections there, and like I just remember trying to fill out paperwork and stuff to file for the business, and I had to put in like this deposit and stuff, and it was just so inefficient. And
There's not a lot of infrastructure here to support small business in that way.
not really, and there needs to be.
Yeah.
Because that's probably what would allow the state to thrive a little bit more, to have just easier access. But they make it kind of challenging to actually start a business. So you have to kind of figure it out. But once you figure it out, you're like, okay, I think I have a hang of this. But yeah.
You talked about big picture a while ago. I'm curious, we've talked about this recently a lot, about the idea of outsourcing. How do you navigate that? Because it seems like, other than like your graphic designer, you've kind of been the guy doing it all.
Mm-hmm.
What do you see yourself implementing moving forward?
I guess it depends. I've thought about getting somebody like Eric got you, which is like having somebody who can film, and then you get paid like ad revenue. At least that's kind of what he said. He's kind of set up, and you might get more now. I don't know what his model, but his initial model was like he was going to set you up with ad revenue. I don't know if I think that's kind of just what he's told me about that.
Yeah, it was salary plus ad revenue.
Salary plus ad revenue. Yeah, which is cool.
Yeah.
And I could probably just set it up to where I'm like, okay, you get ad revenue, and whatever video, like if we're making, especially if I do like a 30-day series,
Yeah.
give somebody ad revenue on a 30-day series, bringing in 10, 15,000 views a video, that adds up.
Oh, yeah.
That's like, that has potential to be a lot of money. But potentially bringing in somebody like that, they can do some of the, like, to film and potentially edit, depending on what it looks like, depending on that's potentially where a salary would come in, of like the editing process. But even then, it's like I still wanted to have like my own creative feel to it, which would probably just take more planning. But that would probably be the only thing I would outsource at this point. Working with my graphic designer, it's been good. Especially with just the size that we have, it's kind of good to keep everything under control, which allows us to keep quality under control, which allows us to keep everything cohesive, which makes the brand feel better. It makes it feel like we're all on the same page. And so the outsourcing is going to be a slow process. I think it's going to be something that I'm a little bit cautious with. And I had to make sure that if I'm outsourcing stuff, it has to be done with intentionality toward finding the right people that can do it. It isn't going to erode the brand in any way, isn't going to damage the quality of videos I'm making, isn't going to feel like, oh, I'm just putting out numbers, just putting out tons of videos for the sake of putting out tons of videos. It's like, no, we're putting out videos for the sake of providing quality, providing entertainment, providing connection with people. So
Brax and I have talked a lot about this transition from being the hard work guy to the idea guy in your business. I feel like you're probably somewhere along that path. Obviously, a Daily Mile series is basically straight hard work.
Yeah.
And you do have a lot of ideation with that, with the voiceovers and all of that intentionality. But how do you see yourself moving through that transition?
not really sure. Yeah, I mean, I think being the hard work guy is sometimes like a really good thing, and then being the idea guy is also like there's definitely multiple components to that. I feel like it just depends on the day. Sometimes, some days I'm like, all right, let me like really get some work done. And then other days I'm like, it's okay if I don't get work done today. I need to come up with ideas. I need to be thinking about what my next video is going to be about. I need to be thinking about what my next like blog post is going to be. I need to be thinking about these individual things, and it's okay if I don't get as much tangible work done today. So I think it varies day to day for me, at least right now. I'm not swinging from one side to another. It's still like, okay, hard work today, and then ideas the next day, which doesn't like hard work is you have tangible results. It's like you have something you can look at. You have quantitative metrics. Then whenever you shift toward more of the idea stuff, it's like, okay, now you have qualitative metrics, which is reinforcing the hard work that you've done, which makes the hard work better, which makes the end result, the video you're creating, higher quality. So for me, it's like, okay, going back and forth between those two things. If that is kind of the idea that you're talking about there with the hard work versus idea generation.
Yeah. We talk a lot about this because it was something in particular that I dealt with a lot at the beginning of the year. As my business kept growing, and my business is now at a place where my business was actively suffering because I wasn't letting go of some of the processes of my business. I was being a little too precious with the process, and I was being a little too precious with like kind of convincing myself that, oh, like my business operates the way that it does because I have my hands on everything. And it's almost like you have to really swallow your ego and be like, oh, actually, I'm actually hurting my business because I'm not willing to let go of certain things, you know? And it's just kind of like a painful process because kind of going back to what you said earlier, you were talking about how you're having to learn how to not just work hard, but work effectively, you know? And the problem is that in the first beginning stages of business, the only sort of feedback loop you have is hard work, right? But as you get further into business, the feedback loop then changes. But the problem is that you've spent this entire first half of your life only knowing hard work. You only know that if I do a lot of things, things will happen. But now, if you continue to do all of the things, you're hurting the future longevity of your business. And that's just like a very painful process to go through. It's just like it's so mentally rattling because you're told one thing the entire time, and then out of nowhere, that thing then is wrong.
That's my running journey over the last 4 years. I'm told that quantity is like, I'm told I have to run more miles. If I'm going to get better, if I'm going to get faster, if I'm going to be good, if I'm going to reach anywhere close to my potential, I have to run more. And then I was like, what if I just didn't? Like, I can't do that right now. So like, I don't need to just like push up against that wall and try to just continue pushing a brick wall that's leading me nowhere. So I kind of had to take a step back and just reassess and figure out a way to navigate it differently. But yeah, like having those processes, like you're talking about, you sometimes have to let go. I think back to like Mr. Beast. I've heard him talk in interviews where he's been like talking about how a lot of what he does, he had to let go of like editing. He had to realize, oh, I don't have to edit the videos myself.
Yeah.
Like I need to be thinking more about the ideas. I need to be thinking more about how we're going to actually execute this. I need to be thinking more like a production company.
Yeah.
And so I'll allocate editing to somebody else. Like I don't have to edit the videos. I just need to teach someone how to edit videos like I would edit, and then they can bring it to me and I can be like, oh, this is good or this is bad.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of like the same thing, but also the size of the company matters. So if you're a business that's small, then maybe it's not time to outsource yet. Maybe it's not time to try to like continue growing. Maybe it's not time to like branch out and do those other tasks. Maybe you're still in that hard work phase. Maybe you're still in that. We need to just continue reinforcing this with hard work. And it like you said, there are these phases. There are these things that you have to go through where, okay, we're in this hard work phase, and now we're in this we have to take a different role to help guide the direction of the hard work. And maybe we've allocated the hard work to somebody else who can now continue pushing the vision of the business forward that you're creating.
Yeah.
So you've created the vision for the business, and now it's your job to, with the ideation, guide the people who are now doing the hard work. And there is that point where you have to allocate that, where you have to relinquish, like get rid of your ego and just be like, oh, this is it. But with that, like there's probably like a point where it does go down, where you see like the quality go down, but then ultimately it comes back up. It's like, it's like a dip in the stock market. You're like, oh,
but you're not worried about that right now.
Not really. Not at this point. I think I think whenever it's something I'll probably have to worry about in the next year or 2 years, depending on where the business goes, depending on where social media goes, depending on where everything goes. But for now, it's not something I'm thinking like, oh, I need to make sure that this is set up right, or I need to make sure. I'm not really worried about making sure that I have like everything allocated correctly. It's more so just how can we continue to move the business forward and continue to reinforce the quality of what we're doing. And I think if we can keep value at the center of everything we're doing, that's something I always say is like, if you can keep value at the center of what you're doing, providing value to an audience, then whenever you start to move away from value, like providing value to an audience, then that's whenever you've completely lost whatever advantage you potentially had that got people there in the first place. So if you can continue to provide value, continue to do it in a way, and even provide more value, provide larger amounts of value, connect with people on a deeper level. Like if I'm making a video about how to run better with using like mental tricks, how to think about a race better, how to do stuff like this, that's providing value to the people who are watching. But if I start to just make videos about me running and I don't even mention the mental tricks, it's just like, oh, this is how I ran, then that's moving away from the value. That's like people don't resonate with that as much. And so that was kind of one of the things that I had to realize that like, okay, if I can just continue to provide value to people, even if it doesn't have to be like super scientific, it doesn't have to be anything that's like super deep, but if I can just continue to provide value to people and keep that at the heart of what I'm doing, and as the quantity continues, the demand gets higher. As people start to watch more, it's like if I can keep that at the center of what we're doing, and the same goes with business, if I can keep that at the center of what we're doing, providing value, providing quality, and keep everything wrapped up, then I can, as the business moves forward, I can start to potentially allocate that toward other people and be like, oh, like I need to hire somebody to do editing. I need to hire somebody to answer emails. I need to hire somebody to do this. And like, maybe there's gaps that can be filled there, but for now, like, yeah.
I'm also curious because this ties a lot into what I just asked. This was another thing that I struggled a lot with early in the year was no one really talks about what happens after you achieve your dreams, right? They only talk about the grind to get to your dreams. And I had this moment at the beginning of the year where, and it's so stupid, the moment that I had, but I'm at the studio. We have a shared studio in Chicago, and I'm by myself. It's like 11:45 in the morning, and I'm like warming up my lunch in the microwave. I'm like, we have a mini hoop like above our studio door. I'm like shooting on the mini hoop. I'm kind of just like working on things that like I wanted to work on that day. Like I didn't have anything like super stressful I had to work on at the time. And I just like had this moment of I'm living the exact life that 18, 19, 20-year-old Braxton wanted so badly. You know, little small town Mississippi Braxton just like had all these huge dreams of I'm going to move to a big city and I'm going to have my photo video company and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And I just like had this moment of I'm legitimately doing exactly what I wanted to do then. And I almost, for one, like obviously, yeah, you celebrate your wins, you feel proud of yourself, and you're like, oh, like I did the thing. But then you're like, dang, like, okay, so what do I do now? Have you had that moment? Because like I feel like it'd be pretty easy in your situation to be, you know, I'm doing the social media thing. I have this clothing brand. Like I'm making videos for a living. You know, I found a way to monetize my passion in running. Have you had that moment?
I think it kind of just depends, which is a terrible answer. But if I think back to just the way that my life is structured right now and the fact that I'm still in school and I'm still running on a collegiate team and I'm still have like all these different obligations that are kind of holding me back a little bit from full pursuit of creative stuff. I think that if I were to look at myself, if 4 years ago I looked at myself now, like myself 4 years ago looked at myself, then that would be I'd probably be proud of where I am. And I think that's kind of a cool thing of seeing where I am there. But at the same time, I guess it's just been like trying to navigate all the ins and outs of just life, and everything that I've done in life so far over the last 4 years it's been tough. It's been challenging. There's been these moments, but I don't know. Wait, restate the question one more time. Because let me get back on the right track here.
So basically, you know, like I said, no one really talks about what happens after you achieve your dreams. You know, you have a very like sharp goal of, okay, I want to do this. You know, like I said at the beginning of the year, I just like had this moment of realization that I'm legitimately living the exact life that 19, 20-year-old Braxton really wanted. And I feel like it would be pretty easy for you in your situation to kind of also feel like that. You know, you're doing the social media thing, you've monetized running, your passion in a way, and you're kind of getting to do a really cool thing that not a lot of Mississippi kids get to do.
Yeah.
Like, have you had that moment of, oh dang, like I kind of done the thing already. Like, what's next?
Yeah. So analytics wise, I haven't had a whole lot of growth in the last, like, I don't know, 6 months.
Sure.
From like growth perspective. Like, I'm not getting a ton of followers. I'm not gaining a ton of subscribers on YouTube. But that's what I was trying to tie back in with where I am now with Instagram, with YouTube and stuff. Like, I haven't grown a whole lot. And I think you could look at that and be like, oh, well, I guess he's complacent. Like, he's okay with where he is right now. And it's just kind of like, no, like, I think we're just really early to what we're starting. And I think I have achieved a lot of what I've wanted to achieve, but there's still, like, in my mind, I think keeping that mentality of, the mentality could be, okay, we're done. We're finished. Like, that's it. But then, like I already said, it's like my mentality is, oh no, we're early. We're just getting started. This is just the beginning. Let's continue working toward these goals that we've had for a long time and continue trying to grow whatever we've started here and continue trying to make it into something bigger. And I think as I get out of school, as I'm done with running, it's going to end up, I'm going to be able to allocate more time towards it, which is going to allow me to continue growing this. But you need those, like, you have to keep defining what your checkpoints are. You have to keep defining where you're trying to take what you're doing in life. You have to keep defining where am I trying to go with the business? Okay, let's create a checkpoint there. And then once I get to that checkpoint, there's no, maybe you don't need ultimate goals. You don't need to think of like, oh, if I get 6 figures a year, then I'm set. If I get this, then I'm set. If I get this, then I'm set. And then it's like, whenever you get there, you're just kind of just floating around. You're no longer motivated. You're no longer working toward something bigger. And I think about like Roy McIlroy. He just finished up the Masters and he won it. And that was like his, I guess he's been working at it for 16 years. And that was like the one thing he's been working at so much. And right now he's probably like riding this insane high. And then in a few days, he's going to be like, whoa, what do I do now?
Yeah.
And he's going to have to go back to the drawing board. He's going to retire. He's going to do whatever, but he's never going to get that same high ever again. And I think that we see that with a lot of Olympic athletes. We see that with a lot of people. And it's like, if you just set an ultimate goal of like, once you get there, then that's like the ultimate goal. Okay, this is it. I have nothing else in front of me. Then maybe you've dreamed too small. Maybe you can reinforce, maybe you need to go back and just continue reworking, continue building on the quality of what you've created, which can be another way to continue advancing what you're doing, which can be another way to set a new goal and a new place you're trying to get. But maybe you've set your goals too small and it's like, okay, maybe what do we do next? Like, where are we going from here? And it's enjoying the process, enjoying the journey, but also just setting up new destinations. It's like, if you were to train for a 5K and you go and you race that 5K, then whenever you're done with the 5K, what are you going to do next? It's like, you need to set that next goal of like, oh, well, now I'm going to do a half marathon. Now I'm going to do a marathon. Now I'm going to try to cut down on my marathon time. Now you just keep adding in these new checkpoints almost. And it's like, okay, it's that way you're always moving toward a goal. And you don't end up in a position where you're like, I guess this is it. I guess this is the end of life. This is the end of everything that I've ever dreamed of. This is all I've wanted. And it's cool to reflect back on it and be like, oh, like, this is what I wanted. I'm going to enjoy this while I have it. It's good to be grateful for those moments. It's good to be like, yeah, like, this is awesome. This is everything I've ever wanted. But now, like, let's just see where we can continue to take it. Let's keep the motivation high. Let's see who else we can continue to impact and who else we can provide value for. Just keep moving forward.
So just like ultimately stop setting so many hard finish lines and more soft checkpoints in a way.
Yeah. That's the way I would look at it. There are no hard finish lines because if we go back to summer in Boulder running 100 miles a week, if my hard finish line was running 100 miles in a week, that was like a soft finish line. It was like, oh, cool, we got there, but now we have an entire season ahead. And it was like, okay, this is a soft, like, we made it there, but if that was the end all say, then I would have just like stopped. I would have been like, dang, all right, I guess that's it. And you need to just set those new goals. It's the same way, like, whenever you're making content, you can't just make videos that like require these big goals. You like have this whole series where you're building up to like running a marathon or building up to doing something. You get to the end of that and you're like, oh, well, I guess I'm done running. It's It's like, no, like you're not done running. You need to continue to improve on what you're doing, continue to improve the quality of what you're doing, set new goals, try something new, go do an Ironman, do something completely different. I don't know. It just, but yeah, like soft checkpoints as opposed to hard finish lines. Maybe the hard finish lines are good if you're, like for me, I'm coming to the end of my collegiate track career. Like that's a hard finish line. But it's almost like I don't get to choose that finish line. So it's kind of there. So it's kind of like, okay, I just need to enjoy the moments and the process of getting there. But even then, it's like, this is still kind of a soft finish line because there's more that's after and there's more that I'm going to continue to pursue beyond. And so even though to a lot of people, it seems like, oh, this is the hard finish line. He's done. This is all he's going to do. That's it. It's like, no, like we're just getting started. And if you can set those soft checkpoints, that's the way to roll.
So let's get into it then in detail. OE, social media, running. What are the next checkpoints for you after your collegiate running career is over?
Still trying to figure that out. Something I heard the other day, I'll have to think, I don't want to butcher it. It said, the sooner you define something, or it said, there's a quote, you guys know Speed on YouTube?
Yeah.
He makes like the random video. Dude, he said something in his video. I was like, this is some wisdom that he just dropped. He said, the quicker you define something, the less potential it has to be, or something like that. So the more you define something, the sooner you define something, the less potential it has for growth.
Wow.
And I was like, dude, you just said that in the middle of talking about some cars.
So you just dropped bars.
I was like, where did this come from? Like, dude, that's crazy. And so it's this idea that the sooner you define the outcome, the less potential that outcome has, like the less potential it has to be. And so you close yourself off, which goes back to, I'm going to take a little bit of a tangent here, but it goes back to like competitive advantage and strategy, which is, I'm taking some classes right now in strategic management. And if one of the biggest things, like Michael Porter was big business guy, still a big professor, I guess he was at Harvard for a while. He still thinks about these. You have Porter's 5 forces, which is like how businesses operate and like what their strategy is. Well, he had, it was very strict. It was like, you define like what your advantage is and you continue to try to reuse that advantage and continue. But it wasn't very adaptable to the marketplace. And this guy named, I think his name was Mintzberg. He was Canadian. He came in and he was like, no, I think it needs to be more flexible. I think you need to have a place where you're trying to go, have a direction you're trying to go. But even with that direction, sometimes you don't need to have like all these details that are like weighing you down. You need to have this flexibility with where you're trying to go. You need to have this flexibility as a company of, okay, we need to figure out, like, even if we're trying to go in this direction, if another opportunity presents itself, I want to be able to take that other opportunity as opposed to closing off all my options. And so I'm in a position right now where I'm like, okay, I've done social media, I've done collegiate running, I'm working on the business. I think the next stage is going to be continuing to work on the business, continuing to do social media, probably running in the marathon scene to some degree. I don't know how long I'm going to do that. I'll probably, like, once I'm done with my marathon, I'm running in June at Grandma's, so I'll get to run with Eric, which will be a good time. Maybe I'll run with him, try to run sub 2:30. That'd be a good time. But wherever we end up going, it's just continuing to leave the options kind of open, leave some options on the table. Those are obviously the big pillars of what I want to pursue, but I'm not going to sit and define a strategy so extensively to where it's like, I'm going to do it exactly like this and it's going to happen exactly, because then you get stuff coming in, like you get these tariffs that are coming in, you get these external forces that are coming in and they're impacting the way that you're going about what you're doing, and you get injured and you get hurt and all these external things can come in and they can completely crash your plans, and you have to be able to adapt and come up with a daily mile or come up with something that is going to change the trajectory that you thought you were going to be on. Whenever I started making YouTube videos in the summer of 23, I thought I was going to be making YouTube videos all season, documenting my journey from May to December and running the national championship in December. And it didn't happen like that because I was hurt and I was injured and I had to figure out how to adapt. So I ended up adapting and I made the daily mile. And so many ways, I don't want to create these hard boundaries of like, oh, this is exactly where I'm going to go. This is exactly how I'm going to achieve it. More so, this is the direction I want to go in. This is how I want to grow the brand. I want to grow social media. I want to continue making content about running. I wanted to find more so where I am and where I'm trying to go, create a vision of where I'm trying to be, where I am now, fill in that gap. But I don't want to limit myself to a hard strategy. I don't want to limit myself to where I am now. It doesn't make any sense to be like, oh, like this is this is exactly how it's going to be. And if I can just realize that, I'm like, oh, well, it's not just going to be exactly, I'm not just going to create some detailed plan of this is exactly where I'm going to go, but I am going to have a direction that I'm heading. And I think that's like so much of what I've done. I think that creates sustainability too. And it creates sustainability and adaptability and flexibility in everything that you're doing, where whenever you encounter challenges and things that are like going to potentially take you off trajectory, you're able to adapt to those things and continue pursuing what those bigger goals are. So I don't know. I'm different in a lot of ways, and a lot of people, this might not apply to everyone. Some people need that, like X, Y, Z. I need plan A, plan B, plan C, and I have to go this way, this way, this way, and I need this direct path to get there. But so much of the world it's volatile. There is no A, B, C. It's not going to work. You're going to go from A to like K, and then you're going to have to somehow get back on track to go over to I, and then reroute it back to finally get to B. And then it's all these things are going to happen. It's how do you adapt in those moments, and how do you create a way that you can adapt in those moments? And you just have to constantly be like, for me, it's like, it requires just introspection and being like, all right, how are we going to navigate this? Where are we now? And where are we trying to go? And just being adaptable to everything we're doing. So.
Do you struggle with imposter syndrome at all?
I don't know. It was kind of a thing for a while, maybe. I think it can be an issue. I don't know. There's definitely been times where I felt like, oh yeah, like I probably don't belong here. But then there's also, most of the time, no, I'm like, I think because I didn't put too much value in the metrics. I didn't be like, oh, like now I have 70,000 followers. Now I have 20,000 followers. Now I'm like, oh, I'm a big deal now. I didn't ever have that moment where I was like putting myself up on a pedestal of like, oh, like I'm huge. I'm a big deal. Like this is insane. I think it was just kind of like taking it one step at a time and realizing like, okay, A to B to C to D. It wasn't A to D. It was A, B, C, D. And I think because it didn't happen so quickly, I could have blown up. If I'd blown up freshman year, whenever I was making videos, or if I'd blown up in high school somehow making videos, or sophomore year, or maybe junior year, I would have probably had a lot of issues with imposter syndrome right now, because I would have probably been so lost, because I would have built so many of the ideas that I have on principles that weren't true or weren't always going to be true. And I think I would have kind of been in this negative feedback loop, and that would have been terrible. But what ended up happening is, through the entire creative journey I had I started making YouTube videos in 11th grade, through that whole creative process of trying to develop a social media presence, it was slow. It was methodical. I was failing all the time. And whenever I finally started to get some semblance of success, it was like, oh, okay, we've worked for this. And it's like, we have point A and we have point D that we've gotten to, and we have taken every step in between. So it doesn't feel like I just somehow landed here, like on a floating cloud. Oh, look at this. I'm Brock Kelly, the creator. It didn't feel like I just landed on a cloud. I felt like I worked to get to that location, especially with the Daily Mile. Making a video every day, you're like, that's the hard work. That's like the blue collar stuff of you're working hard. And if you have results, it's because you've been working hard at it for 6 years before this. And now they're showing. And so I don't think there hasn't really been any imposter syndrome, I would say, in my own life. But maybe there were seasons, but not. There were definitely. I could go back. I could talk about TikTok, because that would be an interesting.
Let's hear it.
I haven't talked about that in a while. So I blew up on TikTok in 2020.
Wow, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, secret.
For being like a thirst trap dude, or what?
Nope. I made these like music recommendations where I would like lip sync the songs. They're terrible, but I would like lip sync to these songs that I thought were good. Mm-hmm. And I would like make these videos, and they were highly produced. And I shot them on like a EOS M50, a Canon EOS M50, little like point and shoot camera. So it's better than an iPhone. And I would color grade them a little bit, and I would just shoot them in my bedroom. And I would select songs. I would create like a track list of, okay, I want to do these 8 songs, and then I would compile them into one song, take the little clips I wanted, and then I would play that back, and then I would make the video. It was so weird how I did it, but everything worked to where I turned 8 songs into like one song. I just merged them all together, and it was like clips. It was
Sure.
yeah. And then I would like lip sync over those, and people went crazy for them. I made maybe 8 or 9 of them, and every single one was getting 400, 500,000 views.
Wow.
It was like one of them got like 1.8 million, which was insane. The lowest probably was at like 100 and something K. It was a crazy time. And so I gained a bunch of followers all of a sudden, and it was just kind of like a cool thing. I was like, whoa, this is insane. I'm getting like the notoriety that I was trying to get for so long. And then I had to take a step back and be like, I don't want to do this for the rest of my life. This is not who I want to be at all. Sure. And I realized, okay, I'm not going to make these videos anymore. And so I completely took a step back. And that was kind of a hard thing to do, of like, oh shoot, we have to take a step back from this. Do I need to go back? And because I liked the feedback loop I was getting of sure. You get the dopamine feedback. You get all these freaking crazy dopamine spikes whenever you're making these videos like this. And like, oh, these millions of people are liking me. I'm getting, my DMs are flooded right now. Instagram followers. And this is, everybody's locked up in COVID. So it's even like more so. Sure. Everybody's just sitting at home making these videos. And yeah, it was a crazy time. And then at some point I was like, I don't want to make these videos anymore. I'm just going to ghost the platform. I just completely got off. Yeah. I said, nope, not doing this anymore.
So do you post the Daily Mile on TikTok as well?
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Well, not all the time. Just whenever I feel like it. Sometimes, like, they used to have regulations where you couldn't post over a minute. Yeah. And so some of the Daily Miles were like 1:03, 1:15, 1:05.
Sure.
And some of them I couldn't post. And I think it was kind of like that on YouTube for a little while too. And it just depended. But yeah, I try to post them usually, but they mostly go to Instagram. Sure. It's always going to be on Instagram. Yeah. Sometimes on YouTube, sometimes on TikTok. One of the issues I ran into with YouTube posting a short every day, was that it ruined my viewership on for my subscribers on YouTube.
On long form. Yeah, I've heard that before, that a lot of people were making like independent or separate YouTube accounts because the short form was affecting their long-term viewership.
Yeah. So it was like I was making these videos in short form, and I was making one every day, and I posted, okay, like, let me put this out. And they were high quality, good enough to do well. And by the time I got to like I posted a long form video after, I don't know, a couple of weeks posting short form video. The long form video did terrible. Mm-hmm. And I was like, this is just like a normal long form video. It should be doing decently well. And it had like decent enough thumbnail. Like, it should be all right. Decent enough title, decent enough thumbnail. I feel like people will be interested in it. And it just didn't get the same viewership. And I was like, okay, I think this is definitely impacting it. And they just weren't. I think it would have been different if it was a long form video every single day. Yeah. Because I think it would have created a more loyal audience where people are tuning in every day and they're like, oh, this is fun to watch. Oh, I can watch for 15 minutes. But shorts, it's like people don't care. People aren't going to scroll through shorts every day. People will scroll through Instagram every day. And they will watch reels and they will see it in their feed. But on shorts, it's like one off.
Yeah, and like in short form content just inherently is a bit more transactional. You know, you consume the content and you scroll and you keep going. You know, you don't really invest in the person a whole lot.
No, you aren't clicking on a video. It's not like with YouTube, you have to literally like click on a video. You have to click on somebody's video if you're going to watch it. Yeah. And so if you have 30,000 views, that means 30,000 people decided they were going to click on your thumbnail and title, which is crazy. Yeah. But on TikTok, you're just kind of fed. So if you have 30,000 views, TikTok said, we'll feed this to 30,000 people. We think it's good. And it's just a completely different setup. Yeah. But yeah, I would say after that time though, after the TikTok phase in 2020, it was kind of like these moments where I was like, I don't even know what I'm doing with life now. Like, I don't know what I'm creating.
Yeah.
Are you singing now? I saw you post something about someone was playing guitar.
Yeah, dude, we were just hanging out.
Yeah.
That was just me and my friends hanging out, just chilling. Yeah. We were hanging out that night, and Preston plays guitar pretty well. Adam plays guitar decently well. And we're like, yeah, let's make some let's like make a song. So I sat and I like wrote down lyrics for a song. Initially we asked ChatGPT and then we got it to like make us a song and we're like, okay, this is kind of sick. And the song that Preston had like a riff he was playing and it sounded like Red Hot Chili Peppers. I was like, okay, ChatGPT, make me a Red Hot Chili Pepper song. So we made that and then I was like, all right, let's like write our own song now. So I wrote down lyrics and stuff and then that was like our first or second take that I posted on Instagram just for the fun of it because we were just hanging out, just playing guitar and I was like, all right, let's just sing this thing. But I used to sing in the church choir all through like elementary school, up into high school and stuff. I was always in the choir.
Sure.
And so been singing for a while. And then my grandfather was a rock musician back in the 70s with like Eric Clapton and George Harrison of the Beatles. He wrote a bunch of things on George Harrison's All Things Must Pass album and sings in the background vocals on a lot of that stuff and plays some of the instruments. And yeah, kind of wild, but he's very musically inclined and I probably got some of it, but haven't really tapped into that yet. But yeah, maybe that'd be something that's kind of just a fun little hobby to have, you know?
It's just something different to do.
Yeah. It's different than making videos or running or whatever. It's like, oh, it's kind of nice just to have hobbies.
Cool. All right. You want to bring this one home, Cyrus?
Yeah. I mean, I think that there's so much to gain from people listening to this episode on the business front, on the creativity side, running, all of it. Where should people go if they want to see what you're doing?
Either Instagram or YouTube. Instagram, it's bkelly5192. YouTube, it's the Brock Kelly. Or if you just look up Brock Kelly on YouTube, it will pop up. Those are the main platforms. There's obviously the TikTok, which is also the Brock Kelly. But yeah, those are the main places. Also started a Substack for the Daily Mile.
I love Substack.
So if you look up the Daily Mile on Substack, you'll see like some different articles I've written. I just post on there whenever I feel like it.
Sure.
And if I ever feel like writing an article out, I just kind of do it in a day and post it. It's fun.
Cool. Well, thank you for joining us.
Absolutely.
And for everyone listening, thank you so much. And we'll see you in the next one.